Going. Hello, hello. Welcome to Wellness Wellbeing Wednesday, everybody. We are so excited to be here. I am just cannot believe we are in the month of April. Oh my goodness. And we are coming on. So I'm trying to get my so you guys can see me. We've got an excellent guest here. Hi, welcome to Wellness Wellbeing Wednesday. We have an amazing guest today, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you guys for being here. We are in Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Stress Awareness Month, everyone. So I want to say thank you for joining me. My name is Michelle Maynard MacArthur, and I am your hospitality, health, and wellness strategist that is here to help guide you through a positive process for change. And that is with a lean, holistic, healing approach from the inside out. That lean stands for our pillars of your lifestyle, your exercise, your attitude, and your nutrition. The fun part is taking and showing you to top luxury wellness destinations all around the world. But before we get started, I always love just to take a few moments of stillness, as we just kind of reach out. If there's any one of you that is hurting, any one of you that might be just having a hard time, that need to have understanding, we just want you to know that you're not alone. Maybe somebody's been struggling from just all of the tragedies that have been out there in the communities around the world, storms, or maybe you've lost someone that is very dear to you. We just want to have a moment of stillness, asking God for that hedge of protection over each and every one of you. Maybe it's not even within your home, but it's within yourself, that you are just not alone. Thank you for this moment of stillness. Thank you so much for that. So, as I was mentioning, we have the awarenesses of sexual assault awareness. We also have the stress awareness. And while I am so excited about the other awarenesses, it is actually celebrating National Minority Month, National Walking Day, National Garden Month, Keep America Beautiful, National Wildlife Month, National Volunteer Month, and it is National Humor Month, because we not only just want to say that we're going to be talking about some stuff that is serious stuff, it's real. And so think about some humor, think about some things to find an opportunity to laugh and find joy within yourself. So, again, I am excited and honored that you have come here. We have a great guest speaker today. Her name is Amy Lawrence, and she is the Senior Director at the Turning Point Rape Crisis Center, where she oversees the advocacy, clinical outreach, and training programs. Their mission is to provide counseling, education, and advocacy to those impacted by sexual violence. Amy is very passionate. I'm just honored that we are in some of the same circles, that she's just passionate about community change and highlighting the role individuals can play in creating a safer community. And if you guys all know me, it's about that nonviolent communication, bringing more compassion, love, forgiveness, and just time to not be judgmental, but to know that we are all hurting. Somebody, each one of us have something. So what Amy does is, for the past 12 years, she has served in Collin County, volunteering with various local organizations and institutions. One of my other philanthropical and volunteer worlds, she does so much in the community. Prior to this, she actually spent 6 years working on international issues related to violence against women, democracy and governance, and human rights, including serving as the in-country communications and operations manager for the USAID funded Combating Violence Against Women and Children project that was based in Cairo, Egypt. Can you imagine? I was so intrigued when I heard that. So, Amy's going to be speaking to us about how during Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we can actually all learn how to take steps to build connected communities and enhance our knowledge of sexual assault, harassment, abuse, as well as many of the resources that are going to be available, such as nonviolent communication, coping skills, and much more. There's a 24-hour crisis hotline number that I will put onto the banner. It is 1-800 886 7273. But my question is going to be to each of you that are in the chat. Would love to know where you're coming from in the world. But for you to, my question is, how does assault, nonviolent communication, and coping correlate with you? What do those words mean to you? How does it resonate? Is it a trigger? And I do want to just make a point that if there's anything that you feel like that might be a trigger, turn the camera off, just go ahead and just back out. You can just write some notes in there, and the video will be available for replay whenever it's good for you. And it might not be, not whatever turning point that you are in your life. Would love for you all to come join our immunity community at immunityforlife.net. But I do want to give this disclaimer that this is all for educational purposes only. We are not here to treat, diagnose, or prescribe. So if you are in danger, please seek immediate help immediately. There is going to be that crisis number that I'm going to plug in. So I just want to make sure that each and every one of you know that. And without further ado, I want to say welcome. Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much for being here. It is such a joy and honor, and I'm just grateful for you.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come on this during April. It is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I think that it's also Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month. And so, as you mentioned, our organization, we work here in Collin County, we work in Dallas County, and we serve survivors all over North Texas. And one of the areas that we're most passionate about is just destigmatizing this experience of sexual assault, letting survivors know that they're not alone, and empowering the community with skills on how to support their loved ones, their family, their friends, and themselves with creating a resilient life and responding and supporting those that they love. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I love that. That's some of the things that is so important, because there are people that we don't even know that is happening. I mean, they look like just you and me. And one of the things that's when we're looking at the coping skills that come in, and what's about that, what I'd love to kind of ask you right now is, can you provide an overview of how your organization and the services it offers to the survivors and the sexual assault?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, our mission is to provide education, advocacy, and counseling. So at the Turning Point, we have 6 counselors along with our clinical director, and we provide free trauma-focused counseling for those who've been impacted by sexual violence. So we also offer a number of support groups, free support groups, community support groups for friends and families, for survivors, activities for just anyone who's ever been affected by sexual violence in the community. So we're trying to create safe communities where people can socialize, can make connections, as well as those higher level of intense trauma therapy. So that's our counseling office or department. In addition, we provide advocacy. So for those who may be experiencing crisis after an assault, and it could be assault or violence that's taken place recently, 10 years ago, when they were children, it doesn't matter. We provide support. So that's where our 1-800 crisis hotline number comes in. So our staffed advocates are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to provide support, information, resources, information on the rights that survivors have, as well as providing support for friends and family members who may be looking to support a loved one in their own experiences with trauma. For individuals who have experienced recent assault, We do provide forensic exams and medical accompaniment, as well as legal accompaniment going through the legal system, because it can be incredibly challenging to feel like a person is alone or isolated. And we want individuals to know that we're here, that they're not alone, that they have rights, that they have a community that supports and cares for them. And so that's really our mission. In addition, we go out into the community to try to help create safer communities, more connected communities, communities where we believe survivors, where we support them, where we understand some of the stigma that they may face and some of the barriers of coming forward. And so that's really, in a nutshell, kind of the services that we provide to the community, free of charge, bilingual, in English and Spanish, our counseling and our education, as well as our advocacy.
Wow. Okay. That's and it's just in the community. It's just in the North Texas community, or does it go outside of the state of Texas?
Well, so we do have a 1-800 number. And because of that, on our crisis line, we field calls from all over the country, but primarily in North Texas is where the bulk of our in-person services are. So it's not uncommon to have somebody who's maybe from North Texas and away at college, or has moved away, to reach out to us. We are connected with the national hotline, the RAIN hotline. And so they do connect us with calls based on a person's area code. But our in-person services, our counseling, most of that is limited to the North Texas area.
I love it. I love it. Tell me about what inspired the founding of your organization, and what motivates you and your team to become more involved in this cause.
Yeah. So I think we've been around for about 40 years, and the topic of sexual assault is incredibly sensitive. It is incredibly difficult. There are so many barriers for individuals who've experienced this type of violence to reach out. And so it was originally founded because there was a need. Too many people were experiencing sexual assault and had no place to turn, had no understanding, had within the community, there were no specific counselors or people to accompany and support them. So, as I mentioned, we've been around for about 40 years, and we've slowly expanded our services. In 2019, we opened our on-site forensic clinic so that individuals who have recently suffered assault, so in about 5 days, they, instead of having to go to the emergency room and wait for hours and potentially receive bills, they can come directly to our on-site clinic and receive that head-to-toe forensic exam in a trauma-informed environment where they're respected, believed, no bills attached, and they can receive the care and support that they need without having to navigate the hospital system. In addition, we opened up a South Dallas office, and that's just an area that is significantly underserved. And so we provide counseling and case management services in that area as well. So as resources allow, as needs become available, we've tried to work to fill in those gaps to make sure that survivors are supported in however best that we can support them and create a community where they are not so alone.
Yeah, yeah, and not be embarrassed, because sometimes when you go into that's good and huge. Can Amy, can you just share maybe some of the common challenges that survivors of sexual assault face, and how does your organization support and overcoming these challenges? One of them is big, is that you offer this free, and it's kind of more in a private, comfortable, safe place setting versus having to go into the emergency room, or just, with all that, so many people around, and they're in a state of shock.
Yeah, so I think some of the main challenges is that sexual assault is not talked about in our culture, in our community. It's very sensitive. And because there's so much silence surrounding either abuse as a child, abuse as an adult, it can be hard for individuals to know the type of response that they're going to get. And there's a lot of distrust maybe with the legal system, because we have seen in the past that I think that it's changing, but oftentimes survivors would come forward and they would not be believed, that they would be um, re-traumatized through the system. And so because of this, as well as sort of the media narratives, the cultural narratives about what sexual assault is and who experiences it, all of these create an environment that prevent barriers. Some of them are physical barriers, not understanding how the police system works, not understanding maybe language barriers or transportation barriers to report to police. In addition, there can be social barriers. Most often, sexual violence is committed or occurs in a relationship where the perpetrator is known. So I think only about 15% are committed, assaults are committed by strangers. And so that means that survivors themselves may have a relationship, maybe a partner or a family member. And so there are a lot of stigmas, there are a lot of challenges coming forward. In addition, just not knowing what the confidentiality is, and that impact that it might have on their own reputation or on their own personal experiences. And so that's really why we have our 1-800 anonymous confidential hotline. The services that we provide do not require reporting to law enforcement, although there can be some real benefits for that. We believe really in empowering the survivor with information, knowledge about their resources, about their rights, and then supporting them through whatever decision is made. So in this environment, the turning point is often the last people, the kind of the last line. If somebody's experienced something like sexual assault or sexual abuse, most often they'll turn to a trusted loved one, a friend, a family member, maybe a church member. And so that's one area that we try to work with the community, is to give them skills to know how to support when a loved one comes forward, not re-traumatize them, but to validate their experience and connect them to the different resources that they might need.
Amy, I've just been really trying to kind of grasp around some of this thing, and it is a very sensitive topic. It is real. Now, when we have SAM, sexual assault awareness, this is an important time to raise awareness and advocate for change. Can you tell us about some of the initiatives or the events for the organization
Yeah,
has planned for SAM this year?
yeah, absolutely. So Sexual Assault Awareness Month is really, it's an opportunity for us to let the community know the reality of sexual assault. There was a prevalence study done in Texas, and they found that 1 in 5 men and 2 in 5 women had experienced sexual assault within their lifetime. So it's really common, but it's not talked about, it's not reported. And so Sexual Assault Awareness Month is just this opportunity for us to let the community know kind of the realities and how to support survivors. So on April 6th this year, we hosted our annual Our Community Supports Survivors event that was in the Art Center of Plano. We had about 200 people come out and just celebrate resilience of survivors. They celebrated, we had performances, we had poetry, music, an amazing keynote speaker. The mayors from around the county presented their proclamations for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And it was just an amazing community event to come together to acknowledge survivors and to highlight the importance and the strength that survivors have and how we can all support and change. So in addition, we have been out and about in the community this month. On April 10th, we hosted a panel event, a panel discussion on advocating for change, for system level change, kind of at the state level, at the community level, at the local level. And so we kind of looked at it from how we can all be advocates to make policy differences. So the last thing that we have is a Till the Town campaign. And so if you're on campus at Collin College or at UTD, you might see these teal ribbons with information about the Turning Point and our services. And these are really just a show of support, that we support survivors, that the community supports survivors. And it's a visual opportunity for people to see, to recognize, and to get curious and start conversations. Oh,
There we go. That right there is huge, because you guys just had a major event that was there, and so that was one of the questions. In what ways do you engage with the community to raise awareness about sexual assault and promote the prevention efforts? Would you say?
yeah,
Because one of them was big, but then when you go to the website, which I've got the website there for all of you guys to go in, but tell us about that.
yeah. So it was so much fun. It was a beautiful outdoor day, and we just had the community come out and show support. So one of the things that we found is that sexual assault itself can be heavy, it can be scary, it can be uncomfortable. But when we focus on how we can create safer communities, how we can celebrate the strength of survivors, when we can highlight that, we're more likely to get engagement from the community. And so that's really what we try to do, is not to scare people, but rather to empower them on how to create safer communities. And when we reach out to the community, especially with our education programs, with our outreach and presentations, it's really to show the community members that you can make a difference, that we can prevent sexual violence. It is absolutely preventable. That our relationships, how we operate in relationships, how we discuss sexual violence, how we cultivate resilience in ourselves and promote resilience and connectedness in others. All of these are protective factors that help us buffer against the risks of sexual violence and start conversations that can actually change the trajectory of attitudes and of communities that give rise to sexual violence.
The audio keeps going in and out. When I'm listening to that, I want to kind of just tie in some of the things that where we talked about at the beginning, and it's on the website about coping skills, because we've got this huge, very sensitive topic. And with when you look at that topic of assault, now sexual assault is one, but assault is assault, and it's violent. It's violence, and coming from the pandemic to just in our world that people are angry. Um, there's so much happening, which is why I always like to start my wellness with stillness. But when you look at that, and then you look at utilizing more of nonviolent communications, you really have to go into helping people have the tools, and that's the coping skills. Can you talk just a little bit about that to give them some idea of, okay, what can I do? Where can I be? Just even if they don't want to do something or need to come to the crisis center, or they're not ready yet, they just want to do that in the comfort of their home where it's non-invasive.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's so funny that you should ask this. Yesterday, we did a presentation at Collin College talking specifically about healthy relationships and how communication plays such a key role. So when we talk about how we are clear with what we want, with what we need, with how we're feeling, how we're communicating, we're strengthening our relationships. When we're setting boundaries and being clear about what those boundaries are, but when we're also inquiring about other people and what their boundaries are, we're creating this consent culture, this community where people are in collaboration on how we can exist together, and where people are comfortable, where they're growing, but they're not being ran over or abused. Boundaries are really critical. And so having those communication skills is really foundational for how we create a safer community. In addition, you talked about coping skills, and all of us in our lives, studies have shown, will probably experience at least one major trauma, but oftentimes we experience all of these micro stressors or stressors that you mentioned. And if we don't have a solid foundation for how we process them, for how we support others who are experiencing them, it can really take a toll on our mental, on our physical, on our emotional health. And so cultivating resilience, cultivating those coping skills, what fills us up and what strengthens us is really key for our ongoing health. So some of those might be just your basic physical care. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you exercising? Are you eating in a way that is really nourishing to you? Are you practicing some of those relaxation, stress, mindfulness, journaling? All of those things kind of give your mind space to rest, to exist without the constant pressures of the day. Then as you kind of go up, I love Cornell's resilience pyramid because it sums it up really in such a tangible visual way. But you could look at how you're engaging with people, friendships, community. Being in places with people is how we were designed to be. And it cultivates in us strength and resiliency that I think we've lost as people have become so isolated after the pandemic with technology. But you really can't underestimate the importance of being with other people, being out in nature. And then kind of the last or towards the top of that pyramid is looking at meaning making or your purpose. How are we experiencing gratitude? How can we connect to something larger than ourselves? This actually helps fuel how we move forward and how we make sense of life. And it may be spirituality, it may be our faith, it may be just something that we're incredibly passionate about that's bigger than ourselves. But all of these are elements of what it means to create a whole life, a life that even when we experience trauma, we can grow from it rather than have it push us down. That's resiliency. And resiliency matters not only for those who experience trauma, but also for those who support others who may be going through a traumatic period or a period of intense stress.
Thank you for sharing that, Amy. And this is kind of where what's important for me here is always making sure that we provide resources. While I mentioned in the disclaimer, we're not here to treat, diagnose, or prescribe. This is for educational purposes only. It is also about, as Amy mentioned, that you're not alone. We are not alone. This is how, if we have more of not judging versus knowing that and being able to look at someone and know that what's behind that. When LaShala was here, America's Supermom talked about behind the mask of what things go through. Mental health is real. And assault, especially if it comes from a younger age, sometimes people don't even realize what is happening that goes into adulthood or something triggers, which is why I always want to say, just be aware of any triggers that come in. We're coming into a close, but I have just a few more questions, Amy, that I'd love to kind of tie in. Turning Point's Teal the Town campaign really sounds intriguing. Can you explain what the campaign entails and how the community members can get involved for anybody that's listening out here in the North Texas area, just as well of what that's about?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, on our campuses, we have these big teal sashes with information about the Turning Point. And it's just a visual show of support in the community for survivors that we believe survivors. One thing I want to stress is whatever has happened is never a survivor's fault. And there can be a lot of even sometimes self-blame and confusion around assault. And so having these visual show of support can just let people know that they're not alone. So we have teal ribbon at our office. If you're a business, if you're a community member, if you want to hang one up, we would love to get that out to you. If you are thinking about it for next year, this is just a great time to show support, especially for something that many people suffer with in silence.
Not just in silence, but where it is more. And I loved when I looked on the coping skills because it talked about the anxiety that came in. That was huge. Another question that I'd love to just ask is your organization also often refers to the advocacy as a cornerstone of its mission. Can you elaborate on what the advocacy means to your organizations, and how can individuals become more advocates for survivors?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned that that's part of our mission statement. And so when we look at advocacy, it's really providing emotional support, helping survivors know their rights and information and resources. And so we have an advocacy program that's really the heart and soul of our organization that depends on volunteers. And so this is a great volunteer opportunity if you're interested in going deeper on how you can support people. It's a significant investment. It's 40 hours advocacy training under the Office of the Attorney General that we provide here. It's mostly remote with a couple of in-person days. But then that's how I started with the Turning Point. It's just one shift a month, and that can be on our crisis hotline. It can be accompanying somebody to a medical forensic exam. And it's such a powerful opportunity to just be with someone in the midst of their struggles. You don't have to have the solutions. You don't have to do anything other than just be there with them. So that is one of our, what we would consider the lifeblood of our organization, of how we approach serving survivors. In addition, when we look at advocacy, it also kind of takes on a different role when you talk about kind of elevating this issue within the community. So we're always looking, we're always looking for volunteers, for individuals in the community to create partnerships with on how we can bring more awareness about this issue. We provide all of these free services for survivors. And even though we've been here for 40 years, so many times I walk into community rooms and no one has heard about us. Nobody knows about our resources. I've had too many people come up to me and say, I experienced assault or abuse as a teenager, as a child, and I was all alone. Nobody, I couldn't tell anybody. I didn't know there was support. And so we depend on community members to make that bridge, to be that bridge so that those who are in need of our support can actually be connected and receive it.
I'm so grateful that your organization has been around for 40 years and that is providing this right here for people because it's needed. And not just if it's not you out there, any of the listeners, but to have the awareness, to have the knowledge so that you are prepared if something ever comes up. And it might just even be somebody on the street that you don't even know. But if you're educated and you understand this, then this is how you can also pay it forward and provide what the turning point is.
Yeah.
Lastly, Amy, what I'd love to know is how can the listener support your organization, the mission, and contribute to creating a safer and more supportive environment for the survivors of sexual assault?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is just to really be educated in terms of how to support someone who discloses this because it can be incredibly vulnerable. So we have resources on our blog on supporting survivors, but one of the acronyms that we use to when we do our education programs is to validate, appreciate, and refer. So VAR, and this actually comes from a youth mental health organization. They've since changed and moved away from that acronym, but it is so perfect for our work. So by validating, you're just expressing to the person what you feel is valid. I believe you, and just kind of making that connection to validate their emotions. Trauma has so many different responses, and so everybody's response is completely valid. To appreciate the courage that it takes to come forward, the strength of having to experience this violence and keep on going, and appreciating their trust and honoring that they've shared with you. And the last is referral. And that can be referring to a mental health organization like ours, but it could be just referring to some of those coping skills and walking along with them in the process. Do you need to get out and go for a walk in nature? I'm here to walk with you through that. Just showing up, being present, and supporting them. So that's the first way. The second way is to really take our mission into the community, to start conversations, to notice when some of these false narratives about sexual assault, you may hear it on the news, in the media, in music, that are degrading of other people, marginalizing them, maybe that are distrustful, and just recognizing how sensitive and how many times these false myths create an environment where survivors suffer alone. And so being aware of those media influences and just starting the conversation. The last thing I will say is that we offer a number of ways to get in support of our organization. We have a program that we just launched, which is Community Champions. And that is really, it involves just a 4-hour course kind of to understand the nuances of sexual assault, of our mission, but then to be able, it equips you with being able to go out into your own circles, whether it's business, whether it's faith, whether you're working in the educational field. It equips you with how to make a difference, how to start those conversations, how to connect people to resources. And so in addition to that, I mentioned our volunteer advocacy. Obviously, we're a nonprofit here in North Texas. And so if your heart is moved to donate to us, that is also an option. And just showing up, whether it's online, in the community, for those that you loved, about the mission, about connecting those in need.
I love that. Now, do you offer, because it's there's a lot of the training and the different things that are there, and you said online, if someone may be away at college or maybe in Cairo, Egypt, or somewhere else around the world, can they log in and still maybe be able to get educated and bring awareness and say, hey, I'm going to be coming to North Texas, or whatever they might be, just to help on an international basis? Is that possible?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we are present on the internet. So we have our YouTube site, we have resources available there. We have our online training program, and you don't have to be around here to get that information if you're interested in participating. We also have our 1-800 hotline. And so just anyone who is looking for ways to support someone, or maybe needs just to talk to someone themselves, we're here for them. We go out and we do presentations for the community. So if you're looking for an in-person or a virtual presentation about this, our community outreach page has a request. You can always email our inbox, info@theturningpoint.org, for any sort of request, and we'll connect you to the right person and follow up with ways for education, for resources and skills.
Is that info@turningpoint.com or theturningpoint.com?
theturningpoint.org.
Okay, theturningpoint.org.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting it into the chat for anybody listening. That way, we are being streamed on my YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So I did put that in. That way you don't have to keep hitting the replay. For all of you, there is the website that's there. She is on all social medias. And I also put up, that is on the tickler, is the 800 crisis line. I did put that into the chat so you can have that. There's just a wealth of information. Amy, I want to say thank you so much for just taking the time to come and bring awareness on here, on as far as on the different platforms, so that it can get out into the world, because there may be some woman that's in Europe, in Egypt, in Africa, or in South America, wherever in the world, that might be listening to this, that we hope that it has brought you some value, and that you know that you're not alone. The internet helps bring us from whatever part of the globe we are in, so that we can help one another. And I want to just say again, thank you. Amy, don't leave the studio yet. We will meet back in the green room after we close. But I do want to wish you all a beautiful, blessed, and prosperous day. For any that might have come here from the Clubhouse platform, I sincerely apologize. The Clubhouse platform was not allowing me to go in, and we had some delays, but y'all will be able to hear it. I did plug in the sites, and I will get the video or the recording so y'all can hear that. So go have a wonderful day, and just remember to get out, move, find some joy, find some humor, and really think about these sensitive things, not on the negative side, but as I'll always like to say, creating that positive process for change. What can you do positive with something that is hard, that's not good, that is sensitive, and turn that into a positive to bring awareness and to help someone else. God bless you guys, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.